Hey everyone! If you enjoy these story videos, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world and keeps us creating more amazing stories every week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The electric hum of the city was a constant symphony, a backdrop to a world where dreams were built on digital platforms and shattered on front-page headlines. In this sprawling metropolis of Los Angeles, two lives, seemingly light years apart, were hurtling towards an unforeseen collision. One, a supernova of rock and roll, the other, a quiet star in her own small constellation. Alex Storm, at 30 years old, was a force of nature, a hurricane in leather and ripped denim. His face, sculpted by genetics and amplified by meticulously crafted stage lighting, stared down from billboards that dwarfed skyscrapers. His voice, a gravelly roar that could melt arenas into a screaming, adoring puddle, was the soundtrack to millions of lives. Alex was, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest rock star on the planet. His last album, Rebel Heart, had topped charts in 27 countries, and his current world tour was a sold-out spectacle, a testament to his undeniable, almost magnetic, appeal. But beneath the veneer of perfectly coiffed hair and a carefully cultivated bad boy persona, Alex was tired. Jaded, even. The endless cycle of interviews, sound checks, meet and greets, and the crushing weight of expectation had begun to feel less like a dream and more like a gilded cage. He saw his fans not as individuals with beating hearts and personal stories, but as a faceless, roaring entity, a sea of flashing phone screens and outstretched hands. "They just want to hear the hits," he grumbled to his long-suffering manager, Rick. "They don't get the artistry. The blood, sweat, and tears that go into crafting something truly meaningful." His music, once a passionate outlet, had morphed into a product, refined and marketed with ruthless efficiency. The raw, rebellious spirit that had first propelled him to stardom was now a carefully managed brand. He believed, with a conviction that bordered on arrogance, that he was above the petty adoration, that his art transcended the need for genuine connection with his audience. His stage presence was a masterclass in controlled chaos, a performance designed to thrill, but rarely to truly connect. His eyes, often obscured by shadows or dark sunglasses, rarely met those of his fans. He was a rock god, distant and untouchable, and he liked it that way. In stark contrast, just a few miles away, in a cozy, aroma-filled corner of Silver Lake, lived Lily Park. 24 years old, with a perpetually optimistic gleam in her hazel eyes and a sprinkle of flour usually dusting her apron, Lily was a barista at the Daily Grind, a beloved neighborhood coffee shop. Her life was a comforting rhythm of brewing lattes, wiping down counters, and exchanging friendly banter with regulars. She wasn't famous, she wasn't wealthy, and she certainly wasn't gracing the covers of magazines. But Lily possessed a richness of spirit that Alex, despite all his fame, seemed to lack. Lily's world was far less glamorous, but infinitely more grounded. She lived in a small apartment above a vintage bookstore, her walls adorned with concert posters, dominant among them, naturally, several of Alex Storm. For Lily, Alex wasn't just a rock star, he was a beacon, a lifeline. She had discovered his music during her awkward, angsty teenage years, and his raw lyrics and powerful melodies had resonated deep within her soul. His songs had been her solace during heartbreak, her anthem during moments of triumph, and her comfort during lonely nights. She knew every lyric, every guitar riff, every drum fill by heart. She wasn't just a fan, she was a devotee, a true believer in the power of his music. "Music can heal people," she would often tell her best friend, Chloe, over steaming mugs of chai lattes. "It connects us, makes us feel less alone." Chloe, a fellow Alex Storm enthusiast, but with a more pragmatic outlook, would usually just nod, secretly amused by Lily's unwavering idealism. Lily believed in the transformative power of art, a stark contrast to Alex's cynical view of his own craft. She saw the emotion, the vulnerability, the passion in his earlier works, and clung to the hope that the real Alex Storm was still there, beneath the layers of rock star polish. She devoured every interview, every documentary, trying to piece together the man behind the myth. To her, Alex's music was a living, breathing entity capable of changing lives, and it had certainly changed hers. She dreamed of a day when she could tell him, truly tell him, how much his art meant to her. She imagined a heartfelt conversation, a moment of genuine connection, a meeting of souls bound by the universal language of melody and rhythm. A foolish dream, perhaps, for a humble barista and an international superstar, but Lily was a dreamer. Their paths, disparate as they were about to converge in the most spectacular and utterly bewildering fashion. The grand finale of Alex Storm's Rebel Heart tour was set to light up the iconic Hollywood Bowl, a venue steeped in musical history. Lily, through a stroke of luck and an insane amount of dedication, she'd camped out for tickets for 2 nights, had managed to secure a spot in the very first row, directly in front of the stage. She had meticulously planned her outfit, a vintage band t-shirt, well-worn jeans, and her trusty Doc Martens. She felt a nervous flutter in her stomach, a mixture of pure excitement and a profound sense of anticipation. This wasn't just another concert for Lily. This was a pilgrimage. A chance to be as close as humanly possible to the man whose voice had guided her through so many of life's twists and turns. She clutched a small, hand-painted sign that read, "Alex, your music changed my life." It was a simple message, born from the purest place in her heart. The air at the Hollywood Bowl was electric, charged with the energy of thousands of screaming fans. The stage, a colossal masterpiece of light and sound, pulsed with anticipation. Alex Storm was due to make his entrance any moment. Backstage, however, chaos reigned. A critical sound malfunction had thrown the entire production into disarray. A rogue amplifier had blown, threatening to derail the meticulously choreographed opening number. Alex, already on edge from a grueling week of promotion and a barely-there sound check, was fuming. His manager, Rick, a man perpetually on the verge of a stress-induced aneurysm, was frantically barking orders into his headset. "Get that amp fixed now. We're live in 5 minutes." Rick yelled, his face a mask of panic. Alex, pacing like a caged tiger, ripped off his in-ear monitor. "This is ridiculous. Every single show, something goes wrong. Do these people even know how to run a sound system?" His voice was a low growl, laced with frustration. He felt a familiar knot of anger tightening in his stomach. The artistry he so often championed felt cheapened by these constant technical glitches. He just wanted to get on stage, deliver his performance, and get out. The passion was there, somewhere deep down, but it was buried under layers of exasperation and professional weariness. As the countdown blared in his dressing room, Alex stalked towards the stage, his mind a whirlwind of annoyance. The roar of the crowd, usually a source of adrenaline, felt more like an irritating drone. He stepped onto the elevated platform, bathed in a single spotlight, and lifted his signature custom-built guitar. The crowd erupted, a deafening wave of adoration. But Alex barely registered it. His eyes scanned the sea of faces, looking for the sound tech he wanted to ream out after the show. Down in the front row, Lily's heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She could barely breathe. There he was, larger than life, bathed in the incandescent glow of the stage lights. He looked magnificent, a true rock god. She held up her sign, her hand trembling slightly. This was it. Her moment, however small, to express her gratitude. Suddenly, a series of minor explosions erupted from the stage speakers. The sound system crackled violently, sending a jarring screech through the arena. The carefully constructed wall of sound shattered into a cacophony of feedback. Alex winced, his frustration boiling over. He slammed his fist against his guitar, a primal scream of rage building in his chest. "What the hell is going on?" he bellowed, his voice raw, unmiked, and barely audible over the chaotic feedback. Lily, caught up in the moment, saw her chance. With all the strength she could muster, she screamed, "Alex, you changed my life." Her voice, a tiny thread of earnestness, was lost in the chaos, yet somehow it pierced through Alex's irritation. He heard it, or at least, a fragmented version of it. He saw her, a young woman with wide, earnest eyes, holding up a homemade sign. In his heightened state of frustration, her heartfelt declaration sounded like an accusation, a demand. He misinterpreted her sincere adoration as another trivial interruption, another fan trying to grab a moment of his precious attention. His eyes, narrowed in irritation, locked onto hers. His patience, already stretched thin, snapped. "You don't understand anything about my music," he yelled back, his voice amplified by a suddenly working microphone, cutting through the lingering feedback. The words, sharp and dismissive, echoed through the arena, silencing the crowd for a split second. A hush fell, thick with shock. Lily's face crumpled, her sign dropping from her numb fingers. The sting of his harsh words was a physical blow. Her hero, her inspiration, had just publicly scorned her. At that precise, heart-wrenching moment, as Alex's angry words hung in the stunned air and Lily's dreams shattered around her, a blinding flash of sapphire light erupted from the sky. It wasn't the carefully orchestrated pyrotechnics of the show. It was raw, unbridled energy. A bolt of lightning, thick and jagged as a dragon's claw, tore through the night sky, striking the very center of the stage. The impact was deafening, a concussive force that sent a shockwave through the entire venue. Sparks flew, equipment exploded, and the stage lights flickered wildly before dying completely. The arena was plunged into an eerie, terrifying darkness, punctuated only by the terrified screams of the crowd. Both Alex and Lily were engulfed in the blinding, electric blue light, their bodies momentarily paralyzed, their minds registering nothing but pure, unadulterated shock. The last sensation Alex felt was a searing jolt through his entire body, an almost otherworldly static charge. Lily felt a sudden, intense pressure, as if an invisible hand had clamped down on her very essence, squeezing the air from her lungs. Then, everything went black. The world spun into an abyss of nothingness. The next morning, the city was abuzz with the news. The Hollywood Bowl incident. The lightning strike. Miraculously, no serious injuries had been reported, thanks to the quick work of security and emergency services. The stage was a charred mess, and the concert had been abruptly canceled. But the real story, the one that would unfold in the most surreal and hilarious ways imaginable, was yet to be written. In a luxurious penthouse suite high above the sprawling city, a designer duvet was thrown back, revealing a figure stirring uneasily. Meanwhile, in a modest apartment above a vintage bookstore, a much less opulent alarm clock blared mercilessly. Two individuals, miles apart, were about to wake up to a reality more bizarre than any rock and roll fantasy. They would open their eyes, not in their own familiar bodies, but in the skin of someone else entirely. The universe, in its infinite and often mischievous wisdom, had just orchestrated the most epic body swap in rock history. The rock star and the barista, the idol and the adorer, were about to walk a mile in each other's very different shoes. And neither of them had any idea what was coming. The insistent, high-pitched chirping of an alarm clock was the first assault on Alex Storm's, or rather, what he thought was Alex Storm's, consciousness. He groaned, swatting blindly at the bedside table, expecting to silence the sleek, minimalist alarm app on his custom-made smartphone. Instead, his hand connected with something small, plastic, and decidedly un-Alex-like. He pried open one eye, a sliver of annoyance already forming. The room was bathed in a pale, unfamiliar light, filtering through floral curtains that were definitely not the blackout drapes of his penthouse. His initial thought was that he was in a ridiculously over-decorated hotel room, a PR stunt gone wrong, or perhaps a dream. A very vivid, very unpleasant dream. He pushed himself up, his muscles protesting in an entirely alien way. His body felt smaller, lighter, almost delicate. He rubbed his face, his fingers encountering soft, smooth skin, instead of the familiar stubble he usually sported. His hands, usually large and calloused from years of guitar playing, were slender, with neatly manicured nails. A jolt of confusion, Then a ripple of unease shot through him. He glanced down, and his jaw, if it were his own, would have dropped to the floor. He was wearing a pair of pink flannel pajamas adorned with tiny cartoon cats. Pink flannel cats. Alex Storm, the epitome of rock and roll rebellion, was clad in something that belonged on a 12-year-old girl. His gaze shot to the full-length mirror leaning against a slightly chipped dresser. What he saw reflected back was not the familiar, ruggedly handsome face of Alex Storm, but the wide-eyed, slightly disheveled face of Lily Park. A high-pitched shriek, undeniably feminine and undeniably his own, tore from his throat. He clapped a hand over his mouth, mortified. This was impossible. This was utterly, unequivocally impossible. He scrambled out of bed, his legs feeling strangely unstable, and rushed to the mirror, pulling at her face. The reflection mimicked his every panicked movement. The hazel eyes, the small mole just above the lip, the long, dark hair that cascaded over his shoulders. It was all Lily. Every single, horrifying detail. No, 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 he gasped, his voice thin and reedy. This can't be happening. This is a nightmare. Wake up, Alex, wake up. He pinched himself hard, then slapped his cheeks. Nothing. The face in the mirror remained Lily's, contorted in a comical expression of terror. He staggered back, tripping over something soft on the floor, a laundry basket filled with what looked like brightly colored sweaters. He landed with an ungraceful thump on the rug, the jolt sending a sharp, unfamiliar pain through his lower back. His eyes darted around the room, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. Walls painted a cheerful but slightly faded yellow, shelves overflowing with books and quirky knickknacks, a small desk cluttered with art supplies. A half-finished painting of a cityscape sat on an easel. This was Lily Park's apartment. He recognized it from a fan interview she'd done once, a small segment about Alex Storm's most dedicated fans. He'd barely paid attention then, dismissing it as more fan fodder. Now he was living it. Then, the memories of the previous night came flooding back. The concert, the technical glitches, his explosive temper, Lily's earnest scream, his cruel retort, and then, the lightning. The blinding flash. The world going dark. Oh God. This wasn't a dream. This was real. He had swapped bodies with his biggest fan. A new wave of panic, tinged with a horrifying realization, washed over him. He had to go to work. As Lily. At a coffee shop. Barista, 6 a.m. shift. The words echoed in his mind, culled from a stray thought he'd once had about how mundane normal people's lives were. Now, that mundane life was his. He remembered Lily's schedule from her fan profile. She worked the early shift at the Daily Grind. The clock on the bedside table mocked him. 5:30 a.m. He had 30 minutes to become Lily Park, barista extraordinaire. Getting ready was an exercise in pure, unadulterated humiliation. He stared blankly at a closet filled with skirts, blouses, and practical jeans. He usually had a stylist who laid out his clothes, an assistant who ironed them, and a dresser who helped him into his stage outfits. Now he was faced with a bewildering array of fabrics and cuts. He grudgingly pulled on a pair of sensible jeans and a floral patterned blouse. The buttons felt tiny and awkward beneath his clumsy fingers. He struggled with the bra, a contraption he'd only ever seen in catalogs. It took him several minutes and a fair amount of grumbling to finally wrangle it into place. Then came the hair. Lily's long, dark hair. He usually just ran a hand through his artfully messy Rockstar mane. Now he had to deal with a cascade of tangles. He found a hairbrush and attacked it with the brute force he usually reserved for his guitar strings. A few painful yanks later, and he had a vaguely ponytailed mess. He looked in the mirror again. He looked like Lily, but a very distraught, very disheveled Lily who had clearly had a traumatic night. The final insult was the makeup. A bewildering array of tubes, brushes, and compacts. What even is this stuff? He muttered, picking up a mascara wand with the reverence of someone handling a poisonous snake. He vaguely remembered Lily always looking fresh-faced and bright. He opted for a quick swipe of lip balm and a futile attempt to tame his eyebrows. He stumbled out of the apartment building, the morning air feeling crisp and alien against her skin. The walk to the daily grind was a blur of frantic thoughts. How was he supposed to make coffee? He barely knew how to operate his own espresso machine, let alone a commercial-grade one. His mind, usually sharp and quick, was a vortex of panic and disbelief. He pushed open the door to the daily grind, the familiar scent of roasted coffee beans filling the air. His colleague, a cheerful woman named Brenda with a perpetual smile, looked up. "Morning, Lily. Wow, you look intense today. Everything okay?" Alex, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace, croaked, "Just a rough night." His voice, still sounding strange to his own ears, came out higher than he intended. Brenda raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. The next few hours were a living hell. Alex, the rock star who demanded bespoke meals and premium single-origin coffee prepared by his personal chef, was now fumbling with milk steamers and espresso machines. He burned himself twice, spilled coffee grounds all over the counter, and nearly dropped a tray of freshly baked muffins. He couldn't remember the difference between a latte and a cappuccino, and his attempts to froth milk resulted in sad, bubbly liquid. "Lily, sweetie, are you feeling all right?" Brenda asked, taking a sympathetic glance at her red face. "You're usually a latte art master. Did you have a fight with David again?" "David? Who is David?" Alex stared at her blankly. No, just preoccupied with art." He tried to sound deep and mysterious, but it just came out sounding like a mumbled excuse. Brenda patted her shoulder, clearly thinking he'd gone mad. "Rough breakup, huh? Don't worry, honey, you'll get through it. Coffee's always here for you." Alex just nodded, wishing he could evaporate into a cloud of steam. He accidentally handed a customer a decaf instead of an extra shot espresso, leading to a minor incident. He kept wiping her hands on his apron, forgetting that Lily kept it meticulously clean. He was a disaster. Meanwhile, miles away in Alex Storm's opulent Hollywood Hills penthouse, Lily Park was waking up to an entirely different kind of chaos. Her head pounded, and a wave of nausea washed over her. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the unfamiliar grandeur. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a sprawling, modern living space. Original abstract art adorned the walls, and sleek, expensive furniture filled the room. Her first thought was that she'd been kidnapped. Or perhaps she'd somehow won the lottery and was staying in the presidential suite of a five-star hotel. Then, she noticed the hands resting on the silk sheets. They were larger, stronger, with short, impeccably groomed nails. She looked down at her body. A broad chest, sculpted shoulders, and powerful arms. She was wearing nothing but a pair of expensive silk boxer briefs. This was Alex Storm's body. Her breath hitched. She shot out of bed, her legs feeling long and powerful beneath her, and stumbled to the bathroom, her heart hammering against her ribs. The reflection in the enormous mirror confirmed her terrifying suspicion. Staring back at her was the familiar, chiseled face of Alex Storm, albeit looking a little pale and disoriented. His piercing blue eyes, usually filled with a rock star's intensity, were wide with pure, unadulterated shock. "Oh, my God," she whispered, her voice a deep, resonant rumble, utterly alien to her own ears. She touched her face, ran her fingers through his dark, slightly mussed hair. It was real. This was Alex Storm. She was Alex Storm. Before she could fully process the gravity of the situation, the bedroom door burst open. Rick, Alex's manager, a man whose permanent expression was a blend of exasperation and caffeine addiction, stormed in, already talking a mile a minute. "Alex, there you are. I've been calling your damn phone for an hour. Do you have any idea what time it is? We're late for the press conference. The one about the lightning incident last night. And then the label meeting. And then you have that live TV performance for Good Morning LA in 3 hours. Get dressed. We're already behind schedule." Lily, still staring at her, his reflection, could only gape. Press conference? Live TV performance? In 3 hours. She could barely sing in the shower without embarrassing herself, let alone perform live on national television as Alex Storm. Her mind raced. What was she supposed to do? What would Alex do? She had no idea how to be a rock star. Her daily routine involved steaming milk and making small talk, not fielding questions from aggressive journalists or belting out anthems to millions. Rick, noticing Alex's unusual silence, peered at him. "You okay, man? You look a little out of it. Still shaken from the lightning strike?" Lily managed to stammer, yeah, just a little shaken. Her voice came out deeper than she expected, and she almost choked on it. Rick, ever pragmatic, just shrugged. "Well, snap out of it. We've got a tight schedule. Your image took a hit last night with that little outburst. We need to smooth things over. Show some humility. The fans are calling you a jerk on social media. We've got a crisis to manage, Alex." Crisis? Lily's head spun. She, Lily Park, a humble barista, was now in the middle of a rock star crisis. Rick pulled out a sleek, tailored suit jacket from the walk-in closet, practically throwing it at her, him. "Here, put this on. And try to look less like you've seen a ghost. More brooding rock star, less deer in headlights." The press conference was a nightmare. Lily, dressed in Alex's expensive suit, sat stiffly next to Rick, trying to mimic Alex's usual aloof demeanor. But every time a flash bulb went off, she flinched. Every question about the incident, the sound malfunction, and especially Alex's outburst felt like a personal attack. "Mr. Storm, can you elaborate on your comments to the fan last night? Did you truly mean that your fans don't understand your music?" a sharp-tongued reporter asked, her camera flashing relentlessly. Lily's heart pounded. She wanted to apologize, to explain that Alex hadn't meant it, that he was just frustrated. But she was Alex. And Alex wouldn't apologize, at least not easily. She remembered his arrogant stance. She had to play the part. "My comments were made in the heat of the moment, amidst technical difficulties," Lily replied, her voice sounding surprisingly steady, a perfect imitation of Alex's deep, measured tone. "Art is often misunderstood. I merely express my passion for its integrity." It sounded profound, she thought, trying to channel her inner rock star. The reporters scribbled furiously. Rick gave him, a subtle nod of approval. But the real challenge loomed, the live TV performance. As they drove to the Good Morning LA studios, Lily felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. She could play a few chords on an acoustic guitar, taught to her by her musically inclined father, but she was no Alex Storm. Alex was a virtuoso, a shredder, a performer. She was going to be exposed as a fraud. Rick, oblivious to her inner turmoil, was giving him, last-minute instructions. "Remember the set list. Rebel Heart and then Broken Crown. Look into the camera during the chorus. Engage with the host. And for God's sake, smile occasionally. Not too much, just a hint of a smile. Like you're slightly amused by the whole thing." Lily just nodded mutely, her hands clammy. She closed her eyes, trying to conjure an image of Alex on stage, his confident swagger, his intense gaze. She had to do this. For Alex. For herself. For the sanctity of his music. As they walked into the bustling TV studio, the lights, the cameras, the crew, it all felt surreal. The host, a bubbly woman with an impossibly bright smile, greeted Alex with effusive enthusiasm. Lily forced herself to nod, to offer a practiced, non-committal rock star grunt. She was handed Alex's iconic, custom-painted electric guitar. It felt heavy, powerful, alien in his hands. She strapped it on, the weight of it feeling like an immense responsibility. The moment came. The cameras rolled. The host introduced Alex Storm, and the opening chords of Rebel Heart began to play. Lily's mind went blank. She stared at the guitar, her fingers frozen. This was it. The moment of truth. She was about to crash and burn in front of millions of people. She could hear Rick yelling something frantically in his earpiece, but it was just noise. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and for a fleeting second, she imagined herself back in her small apartment, listening to Alex's music, finding solace and strength in its melodies. She thought of how much his music truly meant to her, how it had changed her life. And then, something shifted. A spark. A memory of pure, unadulterated passion for the music, for the raw emotion that she knew, deep down, Alex used to possess. She opened her eyes, and her fingers, almost by instinct, found the first chord. It wasn't perfect. It was a little shaky, a little rough around the edges. But it was there. And then, the melody, the lyrics, poured out of her, his mouth. It wasn't Alex's usual, perfectly polished performance. It was raw. It was heartfelt. It was genuine. She sang not with the calculated showmanship of a rock star, but with the pure, unadulterated passion of a fan who truly loved the music. And as she sang, she poured every ounce of her confusion, her fear, her unexpected joy into the performance. The studio audience, usually sedate during morning show performances, began to stir. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. This wasn't the detached Alex Storm they were used to seeing. This was something different. Something real. Back in the daily grind, Alex, in Lily's body, was enduring his own kind of purgatory. He'd just spilled hot coffee down her front, earning a sympathetic glance from Brenda and a scolding look from a disgruntled customer. He was covered in coffee stains, his ponytail was coming undone, and he felt utterly miserable. He glanced up at the small TV mounted in the corner of the coffee shop, usually tuned to a local news channel. Today, Good Morning LA was on, and there on the screen was him. Or rather, Lily in his body, singing Rebel Heart live. He watched horrified, as Alex sang with an intensity he hadn't felt in years. His voice, usually a carefully modulated instrument, had a raw edge, a vulnerability that was both captivating and utterly alien. The guitar solo, usually a blistering display of technical prowess, was more melodic, more soulful. And then he looked directly into the camera, a small, genuine smile gracing his lips, a flash of warmth in his eyes. It was a look of pure, unadulterated joy. Alex, watching from Lily's body, felt a surge of emotions, disbelief, anger, and a flicker of something unsettlingly like admiration. "She's ruining my cool image," he muttered under his breath, clenching Lily's tiny fists. But even as he said it, a part of him wondered, was she? Or was she, perhaps, showing them something he had forgotten? Something that resonated with the very core of his own music, stripped bare of all the cynical layers he'd built around it? The morning, for both Alex and Lily, had descended into a whirlwind of the absurd. And this was just the beginning. The last note of Rebel Heart faded, leaving a lingering hum in the Good Morning LA studio. Lily, in Alex's body, stood on stage, guitar still strapped across her chest heaving slightly. A smattering of applause from the studio audience quickly swelled into a genuine ovation. The host, usually unflappable, was beaming. Rick, who had been on the verge of a full-blown panic attack backstage, now looked like he'd just won the lottery. His eyes, usually squinted in worry, were wide with a bewildered triumph. Lily, still reeling from the performance, felt a strange mix of exhilaration and disbelief. She hadn't just played Alex Storm's song, she had felt it. Every chord, every lyric, had resonated with a profound truth she usually only experienced as a fan. She had connected with the music in a way Alex himself rarely seemed to on stage anymore. The raw emotion she poured into it was her own, but the vessel was his. The host rushed onto the stage, embracing Alex warmly. "Alex Storm, that was incredible. Truly moving. You brought a whole new depth to Rebel Heart today." Lily, still trying to process the compliments, could only manage a slightly awkward "thank you." I felt it deeply." She tried to channel Alex's usual nonchalance, but her genuine emotion was leaking through. Later that day, the internet exploded. Videos of Alex Storm's Good Morning LA performance went viral. Social media feeds were flooded with comments. At Music Lover 78, "OMG, did anyone else see Alex Storm on Gmalay? He was so real. I actually cried. What happened to him? He's usually so detached." At Rock Fanatic, "This is the Alex Storm I fell in love with years ago. The raw emotion. The soul. He's back." At Gossip Queen, Is Alex Storm in love? He looks like he just got his heart broken and then found it again. Hashtag Alex Storm new vibe. At Journo Junkie, Alex Storm, the cold rock star, showed a glimpse of humanity today. Emotional comeback of the year. The headline screamed. Alex Storm's emotional comeback. Is the rock star finally showing his heart? From rebel to romantic? Alex Storm's unexpected vulnerability on live TV. Fans ecstatic as Alex Storm delivers most soulful performance ever. Rick was practically beside himself. He was still in a state of utter shock, but it was quickly being replaced by calculating glee. Alex. My God. That was genius. The vulnerability angle. We didn't even plan it. You looked like you were about to cry during the bridge. People are eating it up. Your streaming numbers just spiked by 30%. We're trending worldwide. He slapped Alex, Lily, on the back, almost knocking him, over. Whatever you did, keep doing it. This is gold. Lily could only nod weakly. She hadn't done anything. She had just been herself, pouring her heart into the music she loved, not performing as Alex Storm, but as Lily Park, a fan. The irony was almost unbearable. Her genuine emotion, born from being a true fan, was now being hailed as Alex's new, profound artistic direction. Meanwhile, Alex, in Lily's body, was having a significantly less glamorous day. After the disastrous morning shift at the Daily Grind, Brenda, the kind-hearted colleague, had suggested she take a break. Go home, Lily. Get some rest. You look like you've been run over by a truck. I can handle the rush. Alex, utterly defeated, had readily agreed. He trudged back to Lily's apartment, the floral blouse sticking uncomfortably to her skin. The quiet, unassuming nature of the neighborhood, once a stark contrast to his loud, celebrity life, now felt like a suffocating cage. He usually spent his afternoons in soundproof studios, or perhaps enjoying a Michelin-star meal prepared by his private chef. Now he was navigating the labyrinthine aisles of a local grocery store, trying to figure out how to cook a meal. Lily's fridge, unlike his own fully stocked, chef-managed pantry, was rather sparse. A few sad-looking vegetables, some leftover pasta, and a carton of almond milk. He picked up a package of instant ramen noodles, his Rockstar palate recoiling in disgust. This is what people eat, he muttered, scanning the ingredients list, which seemed to contain more chemicals than actual food. The simple act of cooking, something he'd never had to do in his adult life, was a monumental challenge. He nearly set off the smoke alarm trying to boil water, and his attempt at making a basic salad resulted in unevenly chopped vegetables and a dressing that tasted suspiciously like dish soap. He stared at the pathetic meal he'd prepared, a wave of despair washing over him. This wasn't just physical discomfort, it was an existential crisis. He was trapped in a life he found utterly tedious, utterly devoid of the glamour and excitement he was accustomed to. Later, sprawled on Lily's small, slightly lumpy couch, he turned on the old, slightly flickering TV. He flipped through channels, hoping to find some distraction. And then he saw it. The news segment. A recap of Alex Storm's Good Morning LA performance. He watched, transfixed, as Lily, in his body, sang his song with an unexpected fervor. He saw the small, genuine smile, the warmth in his eyes. He heard the heartfelt vulnerability in his voice. She's destroying my cool image, he growled, clutching Lily's floral pillow. His perfectly crafted persona, the detached, brooding rock god, was being dismantled, live on national television, by his own fan. The image he had painstakingly built over years, the one that screamed, "Don't touch me, I'm art," was being replaced by, "He's just like us, full of feelings." He was furious. His carefully constructed wall of aloofness, the very foundation of his brand, was crumbling. But beneath the anger, a tiny, unsettling seed of something else began to sprout. He watched the comments scrolling beneath the news clip, "Rockstar with a heart. So authentic. This is the Alex Storm we've been waiting for." He had always dismissed fan adoration as superficial, fleeting. Yet, the palpable excitement, the genuine emotion radiating from these online comments, was undeniable. Alex Storm, had never received this kind of praise for authenticity. He was praised for his skill, his stage presence, his guitar solos, but rarely for his heart. "She's making me look soft," he muttered, still scowling, but a strange thought echoed in his mind. Did it feel bad? The question hung in the air, unanswered. He didn't want to admit it, but a part of him felt a strange pang of something. He pushed it down. He was Alex Storm. He was a rock star. He wasn't supposed to be soft. The doorbell rang, startling him. He opened it cautiously to find Brenda, her colleague, standing there with a plate of homemade cookies. "Thought you might need some cheering up, sweetie," she said, her smile warm. "And I know how much you love my chocolate chip cookies." Alex, unused to such simple acts of kindness, stared at her for a moment. His own life was filled with publicists, assistants, and managers, all driven by professional motives. Genuine, unsolicited kindness was a rare commodity. Thanks, Brenda," he mumbled, accepting the plate. "No problem, Lily," she said, before leaning in conspiratorially. "And hey, don't worry about Alex Storm. I saw him on TV today. He seems to have found his heart. Maybe there's hope for all those cynical rock stars out there." She winked, completely unaware of the profound irony of her words. Alex could only force a weak smile, wanting to scream, "That's me she's talking about. And it's you in my body." He closed the door, the scent of warm cookies filling the apartment. He sat down, nibbling on a cookie, a small, unfamiliar comfort. This mundane life, which he had initially despised, was slowly, subtly, beginning to reveal nuances he had never encountered. The simple camaraderie of colleagues, the quiet comfort of a homemade treat. These were things Alex Storm, the global superstar, rarely experienced. He was always surrounded by people, yet often felt profoundly alone. Lily's life, for all its lack of glamour, seemed to have a different kind of richness. But the anger still simmered. He needed to get his body back. He needed to reclaim his life, his stage, his image. And that meant finding Lily. He remembered seeing an article about the incident at the Hollywood Bowl, mentioning the police investigation. He decided he needed to gather more information. He needed to figure out what happened, and more importantly, how to reverse it. He was a rock star, not a detective, but he wasn't going to sit around in pink pajamas waiting for fate to intervene. This was his life, his body, and he was taking it back. Even if it meant awkwardly navigating public transportation in Lily's body to get to the library to research body-swapping phenomena on a public computer. The thought alone was horrifying. Meanwhile, Lily, still riding the unexpected wave of success from the TV performance, was trying to navigate the complex world of being Alex Storm. Rick, his manager, was already booking more interviews, more TV appearances, thrilled by the sudden surge in positive publicity. "This new vulnerable Alex is a goldmine," he exclaimed, gesturing wildly. "We're going to capitalize on this. More soulful ballads. More introspective interviews. Get ready for a whole new era, Alex." Lily felt a pang of guilt. This wasn't her era, it was Alex's. She was merely borrowing his body, his fame, his life. She wanted to tell Rick the truth, but the words died in her throat. Who would believe her? She'd sound utterly insane. She imagined trying to explain, "Hi, I'm actually Lily Park, your barista, and Alex Storm is currently making lattes at the daily grind in my body." She shuddered at the thought. She was handed Alex's phone, which was constantly buzzing with messages and notifications. She scrolled through it, a fascinating and terrifying glimpse into his life. Messages from other celebrities, record executives, endorsement deals. It was overwhelming. She saw a notification about Alex Storm's new song demo due tomorrow. New song demo? She couldn't write a rock song. She could barely hum a coherent tune. She sat in Alex's luxurious recording studio, surrounded by expensive equipment she barely understood. The pressure was immense. She was supposed to be a creative genius, a prolific songwriter. But all she could hear in her head was the gentle hum of the coffee grinder and the chatter of customers. She picked up one of Alex's acoustic guitars, a vintage model that looked worth more than her entire apartment building. She strummed a few tentative chords, the sound feeling strange and unfamiliar coming from his hands. She closed her eyes, trying to imagine what Alex would write about. His life seemed so distant, so detached from her own. But then, she remembered the conversation at the concert, his harsh words, her pain. She remembered his frustration with the sound issues, his visible stress. And she remembered the feeling of singing Rebel Heart from her own heart, even if it was through his voice. An idea sparked. What if she wrote a song about misunderstanding? About feeling disconnected, even when surrounded by millions? About the true meaning of connection? She began to hum a melody, soft and melancholic at first, then building into something more powerful. It wasn't the hard-rocking anthem Alex was famous for, but it had a raw, emotional core. It was a song born from her experience as a fan, and now, ironically, from her experience as the idol. The music flowed, imperfect but genuine, a melody that spoke of longing and the search for true understanding. As the sun began to set over the Hollywood Hills, casting long shadows across Alex's opulent studio, Lily played a few nascent chords of his new song. It felt right. It felt honest. She realized that by being Alex, she was seeing a side of him and his world that she had never understood. The isolation beneath the adoration, the pressure behind the glamour. And in turn, she was bringing something new to his music, something she hoped, deep down, he would eventually appreciate. The stage was set, not just for a hilarious comedy of errors, but for a profound journey of self-discovery, for both the rock star and his unlikely doppelganger. The morning after Lily's, as Alex, viral TV performance, the world of music journalism was abuzz. Rick, Alex's manager, had been on the phone since dawn, fielding calls from major labels, booking agents, and even a few late-night talk shows. The new, emotional Alex Storm was a goldmine, and Rick, a master manipulator of public perception, was determined to extract every ounce of value from it. Lily, still reeling from the whirlwind of the previous day, felt a growing sense of panic. This wasn't just a temporary charade, it was escalating rapidly, and she was clearly in over her head. She sat in Alex's luxurious living room, nursing a cup of Earl Grey, a far cry from her usual black coffee. The new song she'd started to write the night before was a fledgling melody in her mind, a raw, acoustic piece that felt miles away from Alex's typical stadium rock. How was she supposed to finish it, produce it, and then perform it with the swagger Alex was known for? She was an imposter, and the higher she climbed in Alex's world, the more precarious her position felt. Meanwhile, Alex, in Lily's body, was enduring another torturous shift at the daily grind. He'd managed to avoid setting anything on fire, but his coffee-making skills remained rudimentary at best. He constantly burned her tongue on hot samples, struggled with the cash register, and accidentally gave a regular customer a double shot of decaf, causing a minor existential crisis for the poor man. Brenda, bless her heart, kept shooting him. Her sympathetic glances, convinced Lily, was going through a profound personal crisis. "Lily, are you sure you're okay?" Brenda asked during a lull. "You've been quieter than usual. And you haven't tried to perfect a new latte art design all week. Is it still about that Alex Storm concert? You were so upset after it." Alex flinched at the mention of his own name. He managed a strained smile. "Just reflecting on some life choices, Brenda." He wondered if Brenda knew how truly profound those life choices had become. He desperately needed to find Lily. The more he lived this mundane life, the more unbearable it became. The thought of spending another day making small talk about artisanal pastries or the weather was enough to make him, want to scream. He missed the roar of the crowd, the electricity of the stage, the adrenaline of performing. Even the annoying parts of his old life seemed glorious in comparison to the soul-crushing routine of a barista. As his shift ended, Alex, fueled by a potent blend of desperation and self-pity, decided he couldn't wait any longer. He had to find Lily. He remembered her address from a brief glance at a utility bill in her apartment. He also remembered Rick's phone number, having seen it countless times in his own phone. He figured Lily, as him, would be with Rick. Taking a deep breath, he pulled out Lily's modest smartphone and, with trembling fingers, dialed Rick's number. Rick answered on the third ring, his voice brisk and preoccupied. "Rick here, who's this?" Alex, forcing Lily's voice to sound calm despite his racing heart, said, "It's Lily Park. I need to speak to Alex. It's urgent." There was a beat of silence on the other end. "Lily Park? Look, Lily, Alex is very busy right now. We're riding a huge wave of publicity. Maybe try his fan club or something." Rick's tone was dismissive. "No, you don't understand." Alex insisted, his voice rising in panic. "It's about the lightning. The swap. We need to talk." Another stunned silence. Then Rick barked a laugh. "The lightning? The swap? What are you talking about, sweetie?" "Alex had a bad day, yeah, but he's fine now. Sounds like you're still a little starstruck." "Look, I gotta go. I've got a conference call with the label about Alex's new single, which, by the way, is sounding incredible. Gotta ride this momentum." He hung up before Alex could say another word. Alex stared at the phone in Lily's hand, fuming. Rick, of course, wouldn't believe him. He sounded like a crazy fan. There was only one option left: confront Lily directly. He knew where he was. He walked briskly towards the bus stop, his mind set. He was going to Alex Storm's penthouse, and he was going to get his body back. Meanwhile, Lily was nervously practicing his new song in Alex's state-of-the-art recording studio. She'd managed to lay down a rough track, singing in Alex's deep, resonant voice. It felt authentic, raw, and surprisingly emotional. She was so engrossed that she didn't hear the door to the penthouse open. A sudden, angry shout cut through the quiet. "You! What the hell do you think you're doing?" Lily yelped, dropping the guitar pick. She spun around to see herself, or rather, Alex Storm, in her body, standing in the doorway, her face contorted in a furious scowl. Her usually bright hazel eyes were blazing with a mixture of anger and desperation. He was still wearing the floral blouse, but it was rumpled, and her ponytail was halfway undone. He looked absolutely furious. "Alex!" Lily gasped, relief and fear warring within her. "You found me. Found you." Alex, as Lily, practically snarled, stomping into the room. "You think I wanted to spend another minute making overpriced coffee and listening to Brenda go on about her cat? You're ruining my life. And my image. What was that garbage on TV yesterday?" "Garbage?" Lily, as Alex, retorted, feeling a surge of defensiveness. "I was singing from the heart. People loved it. You've been getting rave reviews. Rick thinks it's a genius new direction." "A genius new direction to make me look like a sentimental softie?" Alex exploded, his voice, Lily's voice, cracking with indignation. "I'm a rock star, not a Hallmark card. You're destroying everything I've built. And you think my life is a walk in the park?" Lily shot back, now standing eye to eye with herself, literally. "I had to sit through a press conference, fake my way through an interview, and perform live on national TV. I almost peed my pants. And then Rick started talking about new song demos. I don't know how to write a rock song." They stood there, two halves of a bizarre whole, yelling at each other in the wrong voices, in the wrong bodies, in Alex Storm's lavish penthouse. It was a scene of pure, unadulterated comedic chaos. Alex, as Lily, gestured wildly with Lily's small hands. Lily, as Alex, clenched Alex's powerful fists, a gesture of frustration that felt oddly natural. "This is all your fault." Alex, as Lily, accused. "If you hadn't screamed at me like a banshee, none of this would have happened." "My fault." Lily, as Alex, countered. "You're the one who insulted me in front of thousands of people." And then lightning struck. It's fate. Or some kind of cosmic karma. Their argument raged for another 10 minutes, a torrent of accusations, frustrations, and bewildered exclamations. Finally exhausted, they both slumped onto Alex's pristine white couch, glaring at each other. "Okay, Lily," as Alex said, her voice a deep sigh. "This is clearly not working. We can't keep doing this. We'll be exposed." "You think I don't know that?" Alex, as Lily, snapped. "I just tried to call Rick. He thought I was a crazy fan. No one's going to believe us." A tense silence fell. They looked at each other, seeing their own reflections, yet seeing a stranger. The absurdity of their situation slowly began to sink in, pushing aside the immediate anger. They were stuck. Completely, utterly stuck. So, what do we do? Lily, as Alex, finally asked, her voice softer. We have to figure out how to swap back. Obviously, Alex, as Lily, grumbled. But until then, we have to pretend. Perfectly. No one can know. This was the uneasy truce. They were enemies, united by a shared catastrophe. They needed each other, for now, to navigate the impossibly complicated maze of their swapped lives. All right, Lily, as Alex, began, a flicker of her usual pragmatism returning. You need to teach me how to be you. The real you. Not this. Vulnerable Alex everyone's suddenly obsessed with. Alex, as Lily, shuddered. Don't remind me. Okay. First rule. Rockstars don't smile at press conferences. They brood. Think painfully misunderstood artist. Not happy-go-lucky barista. Lily, as Alex, nodded, making a mental note. Got it. Brooding. What about the guitar? I can play a little, but your solos. My solos are pure shredding, not some heartfelt acoustic ballad, Alex interrupted, a hint of his rock star arrogance returning. You need to learn how to play with aggression. Power. Think less coffee shop open mic and more stadium pyro. And so began their bizarre training regimen. In the ensuing days, Alex, in Lily's body, found himself reluctantly playing the role of Lily's life coach. He taught him, the subtle art of being Alex Storm. The Alex Storm walk, a confident, slightly swaggering stride, eyes fixed on an imaginary point beyond the crowd. Never look down, Lily. You on the stage. The Alex Storm gaze, intense, slightly challenging, but with a hint of enigmatic depth. Think tortured poet, not friendly barista. You're too nice. Try to look like you're contemplating the meaning of existence, or the next guitar solo. The Alex Storm interview persona, short, pithy answers. A sarcastic wit, delivered with a deadpan expression. Never give too much away. Mystery is key. Let them guess. And if they ask about your feelings, just say, my art speaks for itself. The Alex Storm guitar style, power chords, lightning-fast solos, and a stage presence that commanded attention. She spent hours in the studio, patiently, or rather impatiently, guiding his fingers through complex riffs. No, Lily. More attack. It's not a lullaby. It's rock and roll. In turn, Lily, in Alex's body, became Alex's, as Lily, reluctant guide to normal life. She taught her, the intricacies of being Lily Park. The art of coffee making, from grinding beans to frothing milk, she patiently demonstrated the techniques. It's about precision, Alex. Every latte is a small work of art. And no, you can't just dump a spoonful of sugar in the espresso machine. The daily grind protocol, how to take orders, engage in small talk with regulars, and deal with rude customers with a smile. Remember, Mrs. Henderson likes her chai latte extra hot, and Mr. Patel always wants his croissant warmed. Navigating public transport, a bewildering experience for Alex, who is used to chauffeured cars. Lily, as Alex, drew her maps and explained bus routes. And don't forget your bus pass, Alex. They don't take credit cards. The subtle art of being normal, how to tie a messy bun, how to manage a budget, how to interact with neighbors without causing a scandal. You can't just tell Chloe her outfit is uninspired, Alex. She's your best friend. Be nice. Their days became a hilarious and often frustrating dance of impersonation. Alex, the rock god, found himself struggling with a broom and a mop, burning toast, and trying to remember the names of regular customers. Lily, the barista, was trying to mimic Alex's swagger, learn complex guitar solos, and navigate a world of demanding record executives and fawning fans. One evening, after a particularly grueling session of Alex Storm persona training, they were both exhausted. Lily, as Alex, was sprawled on the studio couch, attempting a complicated guitar riff, while Alex, as Lily, was struggling to braid her own hair, having given up on the ponytail. "This is impossible," Alex, as Lily, sighed, dropping the hairbrush. "I can't live like this forever. My wrists hurt from making all those coffees. And my back from standing all day." "Tell me about it," Lily, as Alex, muttered, hitting a wrong note. "My fingers are killing me from these power chords. And I have to pretend to be brooding when all I want to do is scream." "This isn't me, Alex. This isn't you either, not really." A silence fell, thick with the unspoken truth. They were both living a lie, playing roles that didn't quite fit, in bodies that weren't their own. They were two disparate individuals, forced into a strange, intimate partnership, each trying to embody the other while secretly longing for their own lives back. But as they continued their bizarre training, an unexpected shift began to occur. As Alex learned the quiet rhythms of Lily's life, he began to see the small joys, the genuine connections, the understated kindness that filled her world. He started to appreciate the simple perfection of a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, the genuine warmth of a customer's smile, the easy camaraderie with Brenda. He was seeing the world through Lily's eyes, and it was subtly, profoundly, changing his perspective. And as Lily immersed herself in Alex's high-octane life, she began to understand the pressures, the loneliness, the constant scrutiny that came with fame. She saw the endless demands, the lack of privacy, the constant need to be on. She realized that Alex's arrogance might have been a defense mechanism, a shield against a world that constantly judged him. She was seeing the man behind the myth and finding complexities she hadn't anticipated. They were still arguing, still bickering, still desperate to switch back. But beneath the surface of their frustrated interactions, a grudging respect, and perhaps even a nascent understanding, was beginning to form. The Rockstar and the barista, forced into an unlikely alliance, were slowly, irrevocably, beginning to change each other. The stage was set, not just for their eventual reversal, but for a profound transformation of their hearts and minds. And neither of them had any idea how deeply their brief, swapped lives would impact them forever. Weeks turned into a month, and the bizarre partnership between Alex Storm and Lily Park settled into an odd, functional rhythm. Their initial, furious arguments had mellowed into exasperated, but resigned bickering. They met in secret, usually late at night in Alex's, Lily's, penthouse, or sometimes in Lily's, Alex's, apartment when the coast was clear. These clandestine meetings were part strategy session, part therapy. Lily, as Alex, was becoming astonishingly good at her impersonation. With Alex's rigorous coaching, she had mastered the Alex Storm walk, a confident, slightly swaggering stride that commanded attention. She had perfected the Alex Storm gaze, an intense, almost brooding stare that implied deep artistic contemplation, rather than sheer panic. Her guitar playing, while perhaps not yet reaching Alex's legendary shredding speeds, had gained a powerful, emotional resonance. She performed with a raw energy that captivated audiences, channeling her lifelong adoration for Alex's music into every note. The media, still enthralled by the new, vulnerable Alex Storm, continued to praise her, his authenticity. Rick, oblivious to the truth, was ecstatic. "Alex, your new single, Echoes of Silence," the song Lily had written about misunderstanding and connection, which had been quickly produced and released, is tearing up the charts. "It's a completely different vibe for you, but people are loving it. The critics are calling it a masterpiece of emotional introspection." Lily would nod, trying to suppress a wry smile. A masterpiece of emotional introspection, indeed. It was a masterpiece of her emotional introspection, filtered through Alex's voice and image. She found herself increasingly comfortable in Alex's skin, navigating the complex world of interviews, photo shoots, and recording sessions with a surprising ease. She learned to answer questions with Alex's typical sardonic wit, often surprising herself with how convincing she sounded. She even managed to pull off a blistering guitar solo during a live performance, a moment that had Alex, as Lily, watching on TV, jaw agape, torn between grudging admiration and simmering fury. "She's actually good," Alex, as Lily, muttered to Brenda at the daily grind, pointing at the TV. Brenda, thinking Lily was talking about Alex's comeback, nodded enthusiastically. I told you, Lily. He's found his heart. That new song, Echoes of Silence, it's so moving. It's like he finally understands something profound. Alex just grunted, stirring Lily's coffee with a spoon, a gesture he had picked up from her. Alex, in Lily's body, was also becoming a surprisingly proficient barista. His coffee-making skills, once a source of comedic disaster, were now quite respectable. He could froth milk into perfect micro-foam, remember complex orders, and even manage a decent latte art heart, much to Brenda's delight. He still grumbled about the early hours and the mundane tasks, but the pure, unadulterated rage had mellowed into a weary acceptance. He had even started to appreciate the small rituals of Lily's life, the morning walk through the quiet neighborhood, the friendly banter with regulars, the simple satisfaction of a job well done. He discovered that Lily's life, while lacking the opulence of his own, was rich in a different way. He saw the genuine connections she had forged with her colleagues and customers. He witnessed her boundless patience, her quiet optimism, her unwavering belief in the good in people. He noticed how she always remembered a customer's favorite drink, how she offered a kind word to someone having a bad day, how she found joy in the smallest things. He saw her parents visit the coffee shop sometimes, a hardworking, pragmatic couple who clearly loved their daughter, but often seemed to dismiss her musical aspirations as a childish hobby. He saw the quiet hurt in Lily's, his own, eyes whenever they gently steered the conversation towards getting a real career. This was a loneliness he, as Alex, had never had to face, the feeling of being misunderstood by those closest to you. Conversely, Lily, living Alex's life, was seeing the hidden burdens of superstardom. The constant demands, the endless travel, the relentless pressure to produce, to perform, to maintain an image. She saw how Rick, for all his good intentions, often treated Alex less like a person and more like a brand, a product to be managed and marketed. She saw the isolation of being constantly surrounded by people who wanted something from you, but rarely just wanted you. She witnessed how the media, while praising the new Alex, could also be incredibly cruel, constantly dissecting every public move, every perceived misstep. She began to understand why Alex had built such a thick wall of arrogance around himself. It was a shield against a world that constantly judged and demanded. She saw the weight of expectation, the profound loneliness that came with being an icon. During one of their secret meetings in the penthouse, Alex, as Lily, watched Lily, as Alex, expertly handle a barrage of emails from the record label, negotiating a new endorsement deal with a calm confidence that surprised him. "You're actually good at this," Alex, as Lily, admitted, grudgingly. Lily, as Alex, looked up, a hint of weariness in his eyes. "It's just common sense, really. And I've seen enough of your contracts to know what to look for." She paused, then added, "It's a lot of pressure, though, isn't it? Always being on. Always having to be Alex Storm." Alex, as Lily, sighed, her shoulders slumping. "You have no idea. Every word, every move is scrutinized. One wrong step, and they'll tear you apart." She looked at Lily, as Alex, with a newfound understanding. "I never realized how much of you was lost in all of it. The real you under all the fame." Lily, as Alex, nodded. "And I never realized how much was there in your life under all the ordinary. The small kindnesses, the real connections. My parents, they just think my music is a phase. They don't see how much it means to me." A pang of genuine emotion crossed his face. It was in these moments of vulnerability that something profound began to shift between them. Their initial animosity had slowly eroded, replaced by a grudging respect, then a burgeoning empathy. They were living each other's lives, and in doing so, they were seeing the world through each other's eyes, truly understanding the struggles and triumphs that made up their respective existences. And then, subtly, insidiously, a new, far more complicated emotion began to creep in. They were in the recording studio one evening, Lily, as Alex, laying down vocals for another track on the new Vulnerable Alex Storm album. Alex, as Lily, was sitting in the control booth, offering pointers on vocal delivery. Lily's, as Alex, voice, deep and resonant, filled the room, singing lyrics she had written, lyrics that spoke of longing and unspoken desires. As Lily listened, watching Lily as Alex, through the soundproof glass, he found himself mesmerized. It wasn't just the fact that she was singing his song with his voice. It was the raw, genuine emotion she poured into it. He saw the passion in his own face, the light in his eyes, and it was undeniably Lily's spirit shining through. He felt a strange warmth spread through his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. He saw her, his hand gesture, the way his body moved with the music, and he suddenly felt a profound, undeniable attraction. An attraction to Lily. But she was in his body. At the same time, Lily, as Alex, was acutely aware of Alex's presence in the control booth. Every time she offered a suggestion or simply gave a nod of approval, a flush would spread through his body. She was hearing his voice, seeing his expressions, albeit on her own face, and she found herself drawn to him in a way she never expected. She had always admired Alex Storm, the rock star. But now she was getting to know Alex, the person, flawed, arrogant, but also surprisingly vulnerable and, dare she admit it, charming in his own frustrated way. She was falling for the man behind the music. But he was in her body. The realization hit them both around the same time, like a slow-motion car crash of emotions. It was a terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly ridiculous predicament. They were falling for each other, but they were trapped in the wrong bodies. Lily was falling for Alex, who was in Lily's body. Alex was falling for Lily, who was in Alex's body. It was a romantic comedy of the most convoluted kind. One night, after a long day of pretending, they were back in Lily's, penthouse. Lily, as Alex, had just finished a grueling interview, and Alex, as Lily, had barely survived a particularly demanding shift at the daily grind. They were sharing a bottle of expensive red wine, a habit Alex had quickly picked up, much to Lily's, as Alex, amusement. So Alex, as Lily, said, swirling the wine in her glass, Rick is pushing for a world tour. The new album is a hit. You'll be on the road for months. Lily, as Alex, sighed. I know. It's a lot. And then what? We still haven't figured out how to switch back. A silence fell, heavy with unspoken feelings. Alex, as Lily, looked at Lily, as Alex, her hazel eyes filled with a longing she hadn't known she possessed. Lily, as Alex, met her gaze, his blue eyes mirroring the same complex emotions. Lily, Alex, as Lily, began her voice barely a whisper. I never thought I'd say this, but I actually miss you. Not just my body, but you. Lily, as Alex, felt his heart pound. Alex, I miss you too. I mean, not just my body, but being around you. You're surprisingly tolerable. A small, genuine smile touched his lips. They both knew what they were saying without saying it directly. The words were wrapped in layers of absurdity and impossibility. They were falling in love, across a chasm of swapped bodies and stolen identities. It was tragic, it was hilarious, and it was undeniably real. The stakes, already high with the body swap, had just become infinitely more complicated. How could they ever confess their feelings when they were literally wearing someone else's face? And even if they did switch back, would the magic still be there? The universe, it seemed, had a truly twisted sense of humor. And their love story, if it could even be called that, was just beginning to unravel in the most wonderfully chaotic way imaginable. The unspoken confession hung in the air of Lily's, penthouse, thick with a mixture of hope, fear, and profound absurdity. They had admitted to missing each other, a vague but potent acknowledgement of the deep connection that had formed between them. It was a love blossoming in the most unconventional of gardens, a tender shoot pushing through the concrete of their swapped identities. In the weeks that followed, their secret meetings became less about strategic planning and more about simply being together. They found solace in each other's presence, a quiet understanding that no one else in the world could offer. Lily, in Alex's body, found herself confiding in Alex, in Lily's body, about the crushing pressures of fame, the relentless demands of the media, and the profound loneliness that often accompanied superstardom. She spoke of how draining it was to constantly maintain the Alex Storm persona, how she yearned for the simple anonymity of her old life. They just see the image, you know? Lily, as Alex, confessed one evening, sipping a cup of herbal tea, a new habit she'd picked up in Alex's body. They don't see the person underneath. And sometimes, even I forget who that person is supposed to be. She looked at Alex as Lily, a vulnerable expression on his face. It's like, I'm living a dream, but it's not my dream, not entirely. Alex, listening intently in Lily's body, felt a pang of profound empathy. He recognized the sentiment all too well. It was the very cynicism he had once harbored, the feeling of his art becoming a product. But hearing it from Lily, seeing it through her experience, made it real, raw, and deeply personal. He reached out and gently squeezed his hand. The touch was electric, a small spark of intimacy that bypassed the physical absurdity of their situation. I know, Alex, as Lily murmured, her voice soft. I used to feel that way. Like the music wasn't mine anymore. Like it belonged to everyone else, and they just wanted the hits. She paused, a contemplative look in Lily's eyes. You brought something back to it, though. That song, Echoes of Silence. It's actually good, Lily. It has heart. Your heart. Lily, as Alex, flushed, a blush rising on Alex's cheeks. It's your music, Alex. I just channeled it. No, Alex, as Lily insisted, shaking her head. It's yours. You wrote it. You felt it. You made my music feel real again. Her words were sincere, devoid of his usual arrogance. He was seeing his own art through the eyes of its most passionate admirer, and it was a revelation. In turn, Alex, in Lily's body, began to open up about his newfound struggles. He spoke of the quiet disdain from Lily's parents, who saw her musical passion as a frivolous distraction from real life. He described the painful conversations, the subtle jabs about her career choices, the pressure to conform to their expectations. He had always taken his parents' unconditional support and financial backing for granted. Now, experiencing Lily's vulnerability, her deep-seated desire for her parents' understanding, he saw the profound loneliness of being misunderstood by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. It's like they love me, but they don't see me, Alex, as Lily confided, her voice laced with an uncharacteristic sadness. They don't see how much you love music, Lily. They just want me to be a responsible adult. She looked at Lily as Alex, a vulnerable plea in her eyes. Does it ever get easier? That feeling. Lily, as Alex, felt a profound ache in his chest. This was her pain, her lifelong struggle, now articulated by Alex. He gently took Lily's hand, his powerful fingers intertwining with her delicate ones. It gets easier when you realize their love is still there, even if they don't understand your dreams, he said, his voice filled with a wisdom born of experience. And you learn to love your dreams fiercely, even if no one else does. Their stolen moments together became a balm for their respective burdens. They found comfort, understanding, and an ever-deepening affection in each other. They would cook Lily's simple meals together in Alex's extravagant kitchen, laughing as Alex, as Lily, still managed to burn the toast or watch old movies on Alex's tiny TV, curled up on the couch, sharing blankets and whispered thoughts. The physical absurdity of their situation faded into the background, overshadowed by the genuine connection of their souls. They were falling deeply in love. Lily was falling for Alex's unexpected vulnerability, his raw passion for music that had resurfaced, and his clumsy but endearing attempts to navigate her ordinary world. Alex was falling for Lily's unwavering optimism, her genuine kindness, her quiet strength, and the profound way she saw the world and his own art. It was a love story that defied all logic, all conventional understanding. But amidst this burgeoning romance, new complications arose. Rick, ever the opportunist, was riding the new Alex storm wave for all it was worth. He had booked Alex on a string of high-profile events, including a major music festival in San Francisco and a guest appearance on The Tonight Show. The schedule was brutal, and Lily, as Alex, was feeling the strain. One afternoon, during a break in a grueling photo shoot, Rick showed Lily, as Alex, a draft of an upcoming magazine cover. It featured a strikingly handsome photo of Alex Storm, with the headline, Alex Storm, the Rockstar Reborn, a new chapter of love and vulnerability? See Alex. Rick enthused, pointing at the article. The public loves this new angle. They're speculating about a secret muse, a hidden romance. It's great for publicity. Adds a layer of mystique. Lily, as Alex, felt a jolt of alarm. A hidden romance? She immediately thought of Alex and her body. Was this going to somehow involve him? Her fears were confirmed a few days later. A paparazzi photo, grainy but unmistakable, surfaced on a notorious celebrity gossip site. The photo showed Alex Storm Lily in Alex's body, leaving a small, unassuming apartment building in Silver Lake, discreetly accompanied by Lily Park, Alex in Lily's body. Alex, as Lily, was wearing a simple hoodie, trying to keep a low profile, while Lily, as Alex, looked like the iconic rock star, albeit dressed down. The caption beneath the photo screamed, Alex Storm's secret love? Rockstar caught leaving mystery woman's apartment. Is this the muse behind the new Alex? The internet once again exploded. This time, with a different kind of fervor. At Gossip Guru, OMG. Alex Storm is dating a barista. How adorable. Hashtag Rockstar Romance. At Fangirl Forever, Lily Park. That's his biggest fan. She wrote a whole blog about him. This is a fairy tale. At Industry Insider, risky move for Alex Storm's image. Dating a normal fan? Could be a PR stunt or true love. Either way, it's buzz. Rick called Lily, as Alex, within minutes of the photo breaking. His voice, usually calm under pressure, was tinged with a furious panic. Alex, what the hell is this? Who is this Lily Park? And why are you leaving her apartment? This is a PR nightmare. We've spent weeks cultivating this vulnerable artist image, not rockstar dating random barista. Lily, as Alex, felt a cold dread wash over him. Rick, it's complicated. Complicated? There's nothing complicated about this, Alex. We need to shut this down. Immediately. You need to release a statement. Deny everything. Say she's just a friend. A casual acquaintance. Whatever. But you cannot be seen dating a barista. It messes with the brand. It's too pedestrian. Lily, as Alex, felt a surge of indignation. Pedestrian. Rick, she's a wonderful person. And this isn't some random barista. This is someone important to me. The words tasted bitter in his mouth. How could she defend Alex in her body without revealing the truth? Important or not, Alex, this is business. Rick barked, his voice sharp and unyielding. You have an image to protect. Millions of dollars are at stake. You need to break it off. Or at least pretend to. We'll issue a statement saying you're taking a break or focusing on your music. Something clean. But this relationship has to end, or at least go completely underground. Lily, as Alex, felt a profound despair. He knew Rick was right from a PR perspective. Publicly acknowledging a relationship with Lily Park, Alex and her body, would be disastrous for Alex Storm's carefully curated image. But the thought of breaking it off with Alex, even just for appearances, sent a pang of agony through his heart. She was falling for him. He was falling for her. And now the very world they inhabited, the world of fame and image, was threatening to tear them apart. She called Alex as Lily that night, her voice heavy with weariness. They know, Alex. The paparazzi. Rick wants me to deny everything. To say we're just friends. Alex, as Lily listened, her face grim. She understood. She knew the ruthless machinery of celebrity. She also knew how much it would hurt. So, we pretend to break up, she asked, his voice barely a whisper. The idea was a cruel twist of fate, forcing them to deny their burgeoning love to protect an identity that wasn't even theirs. The absurdity of their situation had reached a new, heartbreaking peak. They were in love, but forced to play a public game of denial, pretending to sever a bond that was, in truth, deeper than anyone could possibly imagine. Their hearts, so intricately entwined, were now being pulled in opposite directions by the relentless demands of fame and the unbearable truth of their swapped bodies. The plot had thickened, adding a layer of poignant tragedy to their comedic chaos. And neither of them could see a way out.